Guys, you know what? I have discussed in previous videos that I am a nationalist in the sense that I believe India has the capacity to do good. I believe that India's culture is among the oldest, and that's a fact, and among the greatest in the world. It may not be the most powerful nation on earth at the time, it may have its fair share of problems, but I still believe it has the capacity to do good. Its people have the capacity to do good. Now, I do always mention that there's a difference between can and will. Today we're going to discuss someone who people like her are the kind of people who are keeping that distance, that gap between can and will alive, if that's one way to put it.
भी हंसते नहीं है बिल्कुल। क्या हम गौमूत्र पे अभी भी हंसते नहीं है? बिल्कुल हंसते। आई मीन गौमूत्र पे तो ऐसे हंसा जाता है कि ये सुपरस्टिशन है, ये है, पर हमने ये क्यों नहीं कभी किसी।
Alright, so she is talking about cow urine drinking practices by certain Hindus. Now, first of all, let me get this straight. She is absolutely implying that it's the colonial mindset that is causing Hindus to laugh at this. She's saying, why are Hindus laughing at this cow piss drinking, bro? Like, bro, if you are to give examples of why this should not be singled out as a a way to ridicule a group, then you had better examples than just spouting this pseudo-scientific garbage and this half-scientific garbage. There are Christians out there who drink dirty water from their holy shrines, devout Christians, and get sick. There's like 50 people getting sick every day drinking that water from there. There's Islamic hadiths talking about how camel piss is such a good thing. So, the blight of a colonial nation is the majority of its people don't grow out of these kinds of practices. And because their culture has been destroyed so badly, they associate progress with loss. Because in the past, every single change has been associated with loss, which leads to people like her. So when people are instead of legitimately calling out these backdated, fucked up practices, these people try to defend it. You know why the West has grown out of it? Because the West was the colonizer. They accumulated all of those resources to expand their knowledge. That is why they cannot believe in this anymore. Most of them, at least. If some Christians are still stupid enough to do that, but most of them don't believe in it because they are educated. And people like her, even if they are educated, they have the backwards sense of nationalism. Are you going to tell me that people like her are in any way, shape, or form more nationalistic than Vinayak Damodar Savarkar? Someone who's planning the assassination of British officials? In fact, he succeeded. Udham Singh, one of his trainees, actually took out British officials, right? It's that kind of stuff was much more prominent than whatever Gandhi did. He was basically the founder, if not the consolidator, of the Hindutva ideology, the concept of Indian nationalism in its modern form, derived from the commonality of all of these spiritual, practices within India, and pointing out how they are different fundamentally from Islam or Christianity. And by the way, he was an atheist. He laughed at this shit. Drinking cow urine. He talked about Hindus being obsessed, having an effeminate obsession with cows. That's a reason. That's one of the major reasons people like him never got along with the RSS. People like him were too educated and too enlightened to, either fully give up their identity or fall in the trap of people like these. You have people like these for whom their identity is holding on to these stupid bits as well as the good bits. Do you know what do the people like these even know what the real blight of colonialism is? People like her themselves are the real blight of colonialism. People like her are the result of colonialism. They are not teaching people to grow out of colonialism. These people are the result of colonialism. And that is a people holding on to anything that it can call its own, no matter how stupid it is, because that's how fucked up life under foreign rule is decades after it's gone. I know a lot of people are gonna say stuff like, but bro, you cannot blame the British for everything, bro. You cannot blame them for every problem, every aspect of their life. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. How many years did the Arabs rule the Turks and the Iranians for? 70, 80, 100? 200? And afterwards they decided to turn themselves into Arabs. How many years did Rome have, single-handed control over the European continent? Not many years, right? 200, 300 years. Did Europe ever recover from that? Did Europe ever go back to its paganistic and pluralistic way of life, which was objectively a much more enlightened tradition than Christianity? They did not. You cannot say that a country, oh, how is your country not recovering from 200 years of colonialism in these 70 years, when you yourself bear the marks of colonization, when you yourself bear the marks of cultural erasure, and you're judging another country for having their culture erased, dealing with the problems that it causes. And the reason that your countries look a little bit better is because you have had more time of freedom. Your Italians, your French, they have had more time of freedom, and the British, they have had more time where their own kings ruled, even when they absorbed all of that fucked up foreign tradition, that Judaic tradition of Christianity. Even when they absorbed Islam, they got to rule themselves. India has been ruling itself for like the past 70 years. What do you expect from a country like that to begin with? So this is bigotry, I would tell you. Like if she was to make an argument, she could bring up arguments about modern Christians getting sick from drinking holy water and Muslims' obsession with Zamzam water and camel piss. Instead, she brings up this pseudo-scientific garbage. Now I would get to that in a moment. The real blight of colonialism is when they impose a new module of civilization on you, the module of civilization which was previously fine now divides its own people. So let's say you have 4 castes, right? Now you introduce a system where you need to have degrees in order to get any job, right? So all of these guys who in the traditional Indian sense did not need a formal education, but India had a tradition of apprenticeship. So the tradition of apprenticeship was completely subdued, and everything that mattered was British degrees. Now among these 4 castes, only the Brahmins were even allowed to read. So if only the Brahmins are allowed to read and knowledge is only passed through written documents instead of listening, then the problem you have is the majority of well-paying, high-paying government jobs are going to be occupied by the Brahmins. Suddenly a system which was dividing labor pretty good, where one group had spiritual authority and another group had economic power, that balance is suddenly destroyed. Now you have the Brahmins controlling both the economics and the religious superiority, the right to scripture, right? Historically, the real education, like anything that the Brahmins really had access to, was those ancient hymns to gods. They did not have access to real education. In fact, they were not allowed to get into those jobs. Those were considered too lowly, too worldly for them. So they were living on the patronage of whoever was funding them.